We were founded 24 years ago with the one primary goal, and that was to build rockets and spaceships that would take us to live on other planets. And 24 years ago, that seemed really crazy, but today it doesn't seem that crazy. I want to roll a video just in case you haven't seen some of the technologies leading towards that. Go ahead.
All stations verify, ready for launch. FTS.
FTS, go. Props,
Go. AVI.
AVI's go.
GNC.
GNC, go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
SpaceX is go for spacewalk operations.
Fantastic. So you can't go live on the moon and Mars without connectivity. So certainly we want to work on connected solutions for there. Unfortunately, there are still almost a third of the people here on planet Earth that remain either unconnected or incredibly underserved. And that's why we started Starlink. We started flying in 2020. We have a giant constellation of satellites that serve humans here on Earth. And connectivity is not just about watching movies, although it's a great way to wind down, but those that are unconnected, once they are connected, have access to banking, better health care, education online, and it's an incredible technology for emergency services. It can also help save lives.
So what is Starlink? Starlink is the world's largest and most advanced satellite constellation. We're now operating nearly 10,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, providing hundreds of terabits of capacity for broadband services nearly everywhere in the world. Starlink is enabled with innovations like our advanced phased arrays, efficient use of spectrum, and our highly performant lasers that create a mesh of connectivity that literally encircles the globe. In the 5 years since we've been offering Starlink service, we've connected millions of people with highly reliable, high-performing connectivity. And we just actually crossed 10 million subscribers. Here's a video from some of our customers.
Starlink instalada. Starlink, anywhere I go, I got my Starlink going.
Can you see my Starlink over here? Even my neighbor downstairs enjoy my Starlink because it is fast.
Here we go.
You can head out to remote locations and not miss a beat.
Good clear sky.
Because I have Starlink, I was able to get in touch with the U.S. Coast Guard.
Hello!
This is my Starlink Mini.
Most reliable connections we've ever had.
But we're not stopping there. In 2024, we began launching our direct-to-cell constellation, which as of today, we're calling Starlink Mobile. The goal of Starlink Mobile is to connect to regular unmodified cell phones everywhere in the world. At the time that we started the direct-to-cell program in 2024, 20% of the land area and 20% of the land area in the US and 90% of the Earth's surface was uncovered by terrestrial mobile connectivity. Starlink Mobile fills in those gaps. Now, after 18 months, we fully deployed the first generation Starlink Mobile constellation consisting of 650 satellites, and we are now operating across 5 continents and are the largest 4G coverage provider by geographic area in the world. We've actually connected over 16 million unique users across the constellation and are connecting 10 million active users on a monthly basis. We expect that number to exceed 25 million by the end of 2026. The Starlink Mobile constellation works by connecting over lasers to the broader Starlink constellation, which means we can connect to devices wherever they are in the world. The constellation flies lower than any other satellite constellation at 350 kilometers. That's to optimize the link from the satellite to the user device, as well as for space safety. Back in 2024, when we started, we launched the first satellite. A few days later, the Starlink team was connecting over the satellite and texting using unmodified cell phones. A few months later, we had demonstrated video calls. Here's a video showing what the service looks and feels like today.
We're here today in the Eastern Sierras doing a demonstration of the Starlink Mobile service. The place we're currently at is in a cell phone dead zone, so without Starlink Mobile, you would be unable to connect to your phone. You'd be truly isolated if anything happened. So we're going to today do a couple demos here with an unmodified cell phone here that's connected to the Starlink satellites overhead. The first thing I want to do here is open up Grok. I'm going to take a photo of where we are, and then we're going to ask Grok, where are we? And it's searching the web for the image, and it says, hey, it looks like you are in Alabama Hills in California, just outside Lone Pine. This is exactly right. It's an incredibly cool capability. The next thing we're going to do, I have one of my colleagues up in Seattle, Daniel, who I'm going to click on and give a video call. Hey, Daniel, how you doing today?
Hey, Chad, good to see you.
This is amazing. So we're here talking to Daniel. He's connected to a terrestrial network, and we're just here in a
Terrestrial dead zone talking over direct to cell.
Daniel, you want to say something to the camera?
Hey, everybody. Good to see
See you from space down to Earth.
And back again. Oh my goodness. Well,
How insane is this? Can you believe this is working?
I mean, I guess we can believe it's working. We built it.
you. We built it, and it works. And it's great to see that
You are out there and enjoying yourselves.
Yes, it's good times. All right, talk to you later.
Have a good day.
Cheers. Bye.
Hey, Chad.
All right, so that was a video call. Again, we're in a dead zone. We just had direct-to-cell service, and we're able to call Daniel up in Seattle. Insane.
So watching movies is great, but this capability can provide life-saving connectivity. Last year in Los Angeles, Los Angeles was devastated by wildfires. Starlink worked along with our mobile network operators to activate our direct-to-cell capability, Starlink Mobile, and over 400,000 people connected in that terrible time. We sent over 250,000 SMS messages and over 150 wireless emergency alerts. So this technology is not just for reaching our mobile apps and our videos, but it is also necessary for an great enhancement for life-saving capabilities. We served the people of Japan after the Kamchatka earthquake in late July, and again with the Amori earthquake in December. Think about land-based, terrestrial-based connectivity often is the first hit when there is a disaster. That's why the satellite-based capability is a great augmentation for day-to-day, but a critical element of emergency services. There's over 4.4 million people who have connected to Starlink Mobile during emergencies and disasters. So we've already enabled wireless emergency, just chatted about that, in the US, Canada, and Japan with support of our partner operators. We are just starting to leverage our broader 2 gigahertz spectrum for emergency services and emergency alerts in Europe. I think it's critically important here in Europe because you're so well connected terrestrially. You have very few white zones compared to the United States. We're full of white zones in the United States. But during those emergency times, that's when the terrestrial network is quite vulnerable. We have a test license, actually, to test this emergency alert system. And if you want to try it, here in Barcelona, we have a test license. And if you want to try it, please come to our booth between Hall 3 and Hall 5. It's hard to miss. We're where the food trucks are. It smells like hamburgers. And give it a shot. See that emergency service work. Next slide. So, a special emergency to talk about here, an ongoing emergency and crisis, is what's happening in Ukraine. We've provided Starlink in Ukraine since the beginning of the conflict. But very recently, we signed a partnership with Kyivstar to help those that do not have access to the Starlink or the broadband capability, and they're connecting people directly from our satellites to their mobile phones. We've been in service for about 2 months. We have over 3 million customers subscribed, and we've sent over 1.2 million SMS messages. We're pleased to be able to support the Ukrainians in both these ways with broadband as well as the the Starlink mobile connectivity, and we're especially pleased with our relationship with the Ukrainian government to help them during this very difficult time. So let's look at the coverage map for Starlink Mobile. We're in 32 countries. We have 35 partners, telecom operator partners, in 6 of the 7 continents. We started, as Mike mentioned earlier, with just text messages, but now we go from text messages, light data, a little more data. We're doing voice and video calls now. The service works with your existing LTE phones whenever you're outside. We have 16 million total users connected with 10 million monthly active users. We're working with device manufacturers to improve your experience with our current generation. Mike will talk a little bit about the next generation. And so now you can get WhatsApp on Starlink Mobile. You can talk through Signal. You can get X feeds and the other applications that are available. And we will continue to work with the cell phone providers, with our partners who we basically leverage their spectrum with the Gen 1 system to make your experience even better. So I mentioned we have 35 global partners. T-Mobile was the first in the United States, actually our only partner in the United States. They were the first to sign on, and we've had a great partnership since then. We work with Rogers in Canada. We're about ready to announce a new operator in Mexico. We're with Entel in Chile, a new operator in Costa Rica. By the way, this is a big week for announcing new deals, so you'll hear more later today. Huge one today at 2 o'clock you'll hear. In Oceania, we are working with Telstra. They've been an incredible partner. New Zealand, One New Zealand is our partner in New Zealand. If you guys haven't seen their Starlink Mobile video, it's about the zombie apocalypse. It's hilarious. I think it's the best video so far that has Starlink Mobile in it. We're in the Philippines, Japan, KDDI. We actually cover almost the entire population of Japan with Starlink Mobile. KDDI was our first telco partner there, and they have been extraordinary leaning in. We're in the Philippines, we're in Mongolia, we're in Kazakhstan, Switzerland, SALT, the UK, VMO2 recently announced. Ukraine, I talked about Kyivstar, and Spain, Moss Orange. And in Africa, Airtel is a partner, a very critical partner for us in Africa, and we'll be lighting up 14 countries there, which we are quite proud to talk about having a service capable and helpful for the African people.
So now we're excited to tell you about what's next for Starlink Mobile. The first generation Starlink Mobile constellation was the first ever global direct-to-cell constellation capable of providing text and light data services nearly everywhere in the world, including video calls like we just saw. The second generation constellation, which we'll tell you about here, will deliver broadband capabilities to unmodified cell phones, reaching hundreds of millions, potentially more devices as we scale the constellation. The goal of Starlink Mobile, which will be enabled by the second generation constellation, is to provide a terrestrial-like connectivity when you're connected to the satellite system. So in the right conditions, that's outside, when your phone's in your pocket, when you're in your car and you're connected to Starlink Mobile, it should look and feel like you're connected to a high-performing 5G terrestrial network. That kind of experience is what we're shooting for. How do we enable that? We'll tell you about the satellite and the constellation, but a key factor is the spectrum we're going to use. So our plan is to utilize globally harmonized S-band satellite spectrum. Last year, we acquired S-band spectrum rights in the US, and we'll be able to use that S-band spectrum globally. It has priority ITU rights, which will allow us to scale the constellation globally, subject to regulatory approvals, and offer a consistent level of service everywhere we operate. We're also working closely with device manufacturers and modem manufacturers to enable the service on as many devices as quickly as possible as soon as we launch. So when we launch, which is expected in mid-2027, we will be on most devices in the US. And as Gwyn just talked about, we're already testing new capabilities utilizing the spectrum, like the wireless emergency alerts that we're testing here in Barcelona today. Next, we'll tell you a little bit about how the satellite and the constellation work. So the most critical piece of delivering a high-quality user experience from a satellite to a cell phone is having a really high bandwidth link. On the second-generation satellite, we'll have 20 times the link performance of the first-generation satellite. We accomplished that with a large phased array antenna, 5 times the size of our first-generation satellite, and 4 times the bandwidth per beam. So we'll use 20 by 20 megahertz beams, as well as new capabilities like MIMO on the satellite. We'll also be utilizing the 3GPP NR-NTN standard, 5G NR-NTN, non-terrestrial network standard, which is specifically designed for the satellite to user links, and will enable improved experience, especially when a user is at the edge of a satellite beam, by something like a factor of 10. In ideal conditions, a user could expect to receive download speeds of up to 150 megabits per second, a truly broadband experience. And then the overall capacity of a satellite is actually also very critical. How many users can you support with this great experience? The second-generation satellite will have nearly 100 times the data density of a V1 satellite. Again, we accomplished this with the much larger phased array, which means a smaller spot beam on the ground, and as well as 16 times the number of beams per satellite and other advanced features. The overall satellite throughput will exceed 100 gigabits on download and 50 gigabits on upload, making it comparable in capacity to the Starlink broadband satellites we're launching today. The satellite is critical, but delivering a constellation that has global and contiguous coverage is just as important. So for that, enter SpaceX's new highly performant launch vehicle, Starship, fully reusable launch vehicle. So with Starship, we'll be able to deploy the constellation very quickly. We'll be able to launch more than 50 satellites on every launch, and we'll begin launching in mid-2027. With Starship, we'll be able to deploy the constellation very quickly. Our goal is to deploy a constellation capable of providing global and contiguous coverage within 6 months, and that's roughly 1,200 satellites. From there, we'll continue scaling the constellation to add capacity, much like we scale on the Starlink broadband system. This will allow us to offer data and voice services everywhere. We'll also scale the constellation to have truly global coverage, including the polar regions. This is incredibly important. The polar regions are some of the areas least covered by terrestrial networks and where satellite can make a real difference. And finally, we'll fly the constellation low, like the first-generation satellite at 350 kilometers. That's, again, to optimize the link between the satellite and the user and for space safety. What's our overall vision here? It's where Starlink Mobile is a key component of a hybrid network that includes terrestrial and satellite capabilities. Satellite is complementary to terrestrial networks. It cannot provide the data density that terrestrial networks have, but it can augment terrestrial networks in the places where terrestrial networks cannot reach or when terrestrial networks need additional capacity. Already with Starlink broadband, we're connecting cell towers with gigabits of capacity for both primary and backup use case with our mobile partners. This is a capability that's scaling very significantly. And with Starlink Mobile, we'll be utilizing our mid-band spectrum, connecting phones directly beyond the reach of terrestrial networks. And then in addition, this network will have a significant amount of capacity that can be used to augment the terrestrial networks. For example, in Europe, we'll have terabits of capacity over the European continent. We can utilize that capacity to cover the regions where terrestrial networks cannot cover, top of mountains, in the ocean, that kind of thing. But then in addition, we have this amazing capacity that can be used when there's emergency situations, when cell towers go down, or when terrestrial networks need additional capacity dynamically, whether that's for sporting events or people gathering, that kind of thing. And overall, the system may even replace the need to deploy terrestrial networks in certain locations, in the most rural locations.
So we're trying to close the connectivity gap, first with Starlink broadband to homes and other platforms, and now directly to mobile devices. The impact of this technology and the partnerships that we're forging across the globe will only increase to serve more and more humans, helping them have better lives, raise the level of their economy, and ultimately making a better world. We're excited to enable this vision, and we're extremely proud about the partnerships that we have forged with telcos across the globe. So we have a number of folks here at SpaceX. I already talked about our booth between halls 3 and 5 outside at the food court. Please come by the booth. We'd be happy to show you the emergency alert system, how that works, and how other connectivity solutions can reach you and your family and others across the globe. Thank you so much for listening to us, and have a great Congress. Thank you.
Thank you.